Time now for Back Pages Tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us tonight, Jonathan Liew, sports writer for The Guardian, and Sam Dean from The Telegraph. Good evening to you both. We will speak to you shortly. Let's have a look at the back pages as they stand this Thursday evening. Coming up, could it be magic? That's the headline in the Metro as Mikel Arteta keeps the faith ahead of this final game of the Premier League season, because Manchester City dealt a major blow to keeper Ederson through injury. What sort of impact could that have? In the Mirror, they're also focusing on that big injury worry for the champions. Headache, it says, for Pep Guardiola. Show you a bit of the Telegraph as well. VAR dominating the headlines once more, and they have an exclusive with the Wolves chair, Jeff Shee, who sends a warning to VAR loyalists. We know that they want this motion tabled, a vote to scrap VAR. Very little was said between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk at their pre-fight news conference in Riyadh. To this in The Guardian as we build up to a huge night on Saturday. Well, let's start with the Premier League title race. We know it goes down to the wire. We also know it is in Manchester City's hands. Very good evening to Jonathan and to Sam. Let's talk, though, about the little twist in the tale, which is an injury to the Manchester City number one. Sam, how significant team news is this? Or do you feel that ultimately it might not affect the ultimate outcome?
I'm sure there are quite a few Arsenal fans hoping this will make a huge difference and really turn the tide in this title race. But I think a lot of people who've watched City this season, and certainly who have seen Stefan Ortega, Ederson's backup, will not have too much hope from Arsenal's point of view. And we saw on Tuesday night against Tottenham Hotspur how good a goalkeeper Ortega is, how capable he is of backing up Ederson, and I'm sure he can do that again. And if you look at the stats, I think City are unbeaten in their last 12 matches that Ortega has started. So yes, it's a drop-off from Ederson. I think that's obvious. Everybody knows what kind of quality and ball-playing ability Ederson brings to that Man City side, but it's not like they've got a backup who's not capable. Absolutely the opposite. Ortega's a fantastic goalkeeper. He's proven that time and time again this season, and I'm sure City will be as confident as ever against the West Ham team with very, very little to play for.
Well, I mean, you say that, Sam, but, I mean, Jonathan, look, if you're going to pick an opponent for Manchester City on the final day, if there is a side who might just upset the apple cart on the odd occasion, they might just pull off a result. And we've been here before, haven't we, with West Ham on the final day of the season in the Premier League. Maybe West Ham are that team. It's David Moyes' final game for the club. Look, you know what? We're trying to stoke up a bit of drama here. Is there any value in that, do you think?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, I've been trying to make this happen in my head for all week. Ever since the Spurs game, and obviously you go back to Aston Villa a couple of years ago, who also had nothing to play for, who I think were lower in the league than West Ham are now, and went 2-0 up and came within a few minutes of pulling off the most incredible heist. That team was in a slightly better run of form, I think. They were certainly tighter defensively than West Ham are now. If you look at certainly West Ham's recent games on the road, certainly when they went to Chelsea, when they went to Palace, and basically getting swept aside. I think when they're coming up against a hungry City team who have goals coming from all over the place. I mean, yeah, we talked about Ederson, but it's possible that the goalkeeper might not get a touch in that game. This could be over. This could be 4-0 by half time, and Scott Carson could come on, who I think is probably going to be the reserve who steps in. I think we all want a close one. We all want a bit of drama. But I personally, I'm struggling to see it happen, just because West Ham they've been so brittle in recent weeks, and I don't think they have the resolve and the defensive resilience to keep Manchester City out for 93, 96, 100 minutes, whatever it is. I think they can certainly cause them a few problems on the break, but I just can't see them keeping City out for long enough.
Sam, listen, I think, Ederson being injured and obviously in that game against Spurs, and then Stefan Ortega really stepping up and had some moments of heroics against Spurs to, obviously Son and that chance and all of that. But I do wonder, yes, he's been involved in the cup games, including the semi-final of the FA Cup, etc. But is there anything there about, this specific scenario in the Premier League, in the final day of the Premier League season, where, they just need to do the job? Is there anything, do you think, mentally that is going to be a greater challenge for Stefan Ortega particularly?
Well, he's not been in this particular scenario before in the way that Ederson has, so he's less used to it and it's less familiar to him. But for City as a whole, obviously we know they're going for fourth title in a row. They won the treble last season. They've been here and they've done it again and again and again. And I think that aspect of trying to win four in a row and becoming the first English team to do so, I think that's kind of given them the fire this year and the motivation. And we've seen so many teams in the past who have gone on and won big trophies and then dipped. It's very sort of understandable and almost inevitable. But for City, that's not happened. And I think the big motivation for Pep Guardiola, especially, and also for the players who've been there for his whole project, the long-serving ones, that players like Phil Foden and Kyle Walker, Kevin De Bruyne, I think that fourth in a row honour, that achievement is what's really driving them forward now. And yes, maybe Ortega himself might not be as familiar with the pressure of it and might not be as ready as Ederson would have been. But when you look at the other players in that team and the experience they've got, the way they've played in the last sort of 6 months, I mean, they've just been unstoppable, really. And I know I can feel that the world wants journalists like myself and Johnny to try and find ways in which Arsenal can make this happen and really rev up the drama. But it's really, really hard to see right now.
All right, OK, fine. You got me on that, both of you. Well played. Good teamwork between you. But what about the FA Cup final, Jonathan? I mean, Manchester United, you heard Eric Ten Hag and those passionate declarations after the win over Newcastle last night. Might they approach this game in any way different in the FA Cup final, given that Ederson's ruled out for that too?
Yeah, I mean, I think talked about, how Ederson is such a class player, not just, in terms of shot stopping, in terms of commanding his area, but also with his feet. And why do Manchester City keepers, look, so settled and so, at ease? It's because they get a lot of touches of the ball. And City are very good at rotating play through the keeper, getting them on the ball, making them feel, involved in play. And perhaps, if you are Eric Ten Hag and you're devising a game plan, you want to put a little bit of extra pressure on. You maybe want to get that team pressing a little higher up the pitch, certainly very aggressively in the opening minutes, try and induce an error, try and induce a little bit of nerves. And because it's not a league game, it's a cup final. And while Ederson has a lot of experience of these sorts of occasions and how they can feel different, Ortega, certainly less so. That said, if Eric Ten Hag could organise a team that pressed coherently and solidly and aggressively for more than half an hour, you'd think he'd probably have done it in one of the 50 games United have played so far this season previously. But it is a one-off game. It is a cliche, but it only takes very small margins to swing these sorts of games. And if United take some kind of comfort or some sort of encouragement from the fact that they're not coming up against Ederson, then they'll certainly use that to their advantage.
And I think, when we looked at United, and for a while it was who's the more bonkers team, United or Chelsea? We were asking that question throughout the season. Chelsea, annoyingly for that debate, have found some consistency in the last few weeks. So if it seems like it's just United, it depends which United really turn up on the day at Wembley. Jonathan, Sam referenced it, this notion, the 4 Premier League titles in a row, it has never been done. This is in The Sun. It's been reflected in tomorrow's newspaper. And Phil Foden talking about this never be repeated in the future. Just the scale and the achievement itself of 4 Premier League titles in a row. Just a word on that, and the fact that Phil Foden, still at such a young age, has been so central to this 4th one as well, if it is completed. Yeah,
I mean, it is a lot of titles in a row, and I think people talk about the advantages. The financial advantages that City have had, also the advantages of having that kind of state backing which has allowed them to plan for the future. It's allowed them to take a long-term view, both strategically in terms of backroom staff, in terms of transfer market, in terms of instilling best practice and best cultures at the club. All these are the sort of things, as well as the genius of coaches like Guardiola, as well as his staff and the talent on the pitch. All of this goes into the package of creating what is certainly one of the most formidable, one of the most accomplished teams we've seen in our lifetimes in English football. And Foden has been key to that. I think there was a time 4 or 5 years ago, when a lot of City fans, a lot of a lot of general fans were thinking, when is this guy going to become a pivotal fixture in the team? And he was held back, and he was held back, and he was eased into this side, and now it kind of it fits him like a glove. And I think that's a testament to, I think, how City have managed to take that long-term view. They've managed to sort of integrate him into the side, to plan his career and plot his career ahead, with the luxury of knowing that he's not going to get poached by a bigger club. He's not going to get poached by a Real Madrid or a Chelsea. And being able to take that long-term view, buttressed of course by the finances, and buttressed of course by the ownership that they have, that has been one of the things that has allowed them to thrive and succeed.
Guys, it's been 10 minutes that we're into the show. We haven't mentioned VAR yet. I think that might even be a record. We probably should. It is actually, of editorial value. Let's go to the Telegraph for this one. And Jeff Shee, the Wolves chairman, who is, he's got a column, and he's outlined his concerns, claiming that VAR has introduced a level of interference that is at odds with the spirit of our game, that VAR is threatening to permanently damage the Premier League brand, that fans are becoming increasingly disengaged because of VAR's negative impact, and that rival clubs should consider abandoning VAR to preserve the integrity and magic of the Premier League. Although it seems like there are major clubs, big clubs in the Premier League who are behind VAR and have stated their opposition to what Wolves are trying to do. What's the state of play with this, Sam? Do you have any confidence that Jeff Shee will garner the support he needs to get the 14-6 majority to abolish VAR next season?
As it stands, it seems very unlikely that they would get that majority they need. But a really interesting element of this, and I think this is the way the kind of story has developed today in the last 24 hours since Wolves kind of set this firework off yesterday, is that a lot of fans, a lot of supporter groups are being very vocal and saying this vote should not happen without some serious consultation with us, with the fans, with the supporters. And they're making the point that fans, especially match-going fans, as Jeff Shee writes in the Telegraph, are the ones who are the biggest victims of this shift towards VAR and this increase of use of technology in football. And they're saying, don't leave this to be decided by the executives and chairmen of Premier League clubs who sit in their suits behind their lovely screens in their heated seats at matches. Let us fans have a say. And if you look at various polls on websites, in newspapers, social media, it seems like the opinion is very, very mixed. And certainly based on that, if they were voting, the fans, then I think Wolves might feel more confident of getting a majority. So it is interesting, and whether these clubs will fear a sort of fan revolt of some sort or some sort of supporter backlash if they don't vote that way, could be the kind of thing that might sway it a little bit. But as it stands, it seems very unlikely from the clubs we've spoken to and what seems to be coming out, that a lot of people will get behind Wolves and back this motion that they've tabled. But let's keep an eye on the fan element of this and see what that does to the sort of discussion and the discourse over the next few weeks.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Sam. Jonathan, on that, how significant do you think this element of fan voice is, the fan disgruntlement, if you want to call it that? And do you think that voice will be heard?
I think it's a good thing that the conversation is now open, that it's on the table. That I think even 6 months ago, certainly 12 months ago, you wouldn't have got anywhere by proposing abolishing VAR. Even though I think it's what a lot of fans, having seen how it works, a lot of fans would want. What I find kind of slightly laughable is Wolves' statement that that they are driven by some nobler, higher purpose. The idea that Wolves are kind of interested in the good of the game, that they're interested in the ordinary fan, not just Wolves fans, but everyone. That they are they're at the vanguard of this great movement. And let's be clear, Wolves are speaking for nobody but Wolves. They are interested in nobody but Wolves, and fair enough, that is their right. That's probably their job.
On this topic, Eric Ten Hag has spoken about it, and as said, there's no way back. Harry Maguire's also spoken about it, Sam, and he thinks it should only be kept for offsides. Is that the sort of decision you can make with VAR? Can you sort of be half in, half out, or do you have to be all in or all out?
I mean, I don't see why not. Why not pick and choose? If that's what people want to vote towards, that's what fans want, that's what clubs want, then why not pick and choose? And obviously, we know that next season there'll be semi-automated offsides as well. So you'd like to think that would help. And I think to be honest, for me personally, offsides is the biggest frustration of all when it comes to VAR. And I think a lot of fans feel the same. And the time it takes to draw the lines and goals getting ruled out because of a toenail being over the line and a sort of a centimetre offside, that's more frustrating than anything. So I wouldn't say offside is the thing to definitely keep of all the things around VAR, but hopefully semi-automated technology changes that. And I think Harry Maguire makes a fair point that effectively it's the subjective calls getting poured over and over again by people in Stockley Park and then referees being encouraged to change their minds. That's what annoys people as well. And the time it takes and the fact that fans in the ground don't know what's going on. And yeah, I can certainly see an argument for basically minimising technology's use and effectively saying only use it for things that are black or white, like goal line technology, and hopefully with the new technology coming in for offsides too.
You are watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you at home. Welcome back to Jonathan Liew, The Guardian, and Sam Dean from The Telegraph. OK, let's get to... Well, it's funny because I always feel, actually, normally by this point when we're building up to a major tournament, there's more of a buzz of who's in, who's out. But there's been so many stories in the Premier League that I think we've been just concentrating on those. But we have had a significant update, Sam, on a Manchester United player who, you know, I think for a while was really one of the main fixtures in Gareth Southgate's lineup at left-back, and that's Luke Shaw. Although he is out of the FA Cup final, and that could really impact things for him in terms of the Euros. But is it that much of a blow, given that he hasn't played for 3 months and that there are some other options, including Kieran Trippier, Liew Colwell, for Gareth Southgate in that particular position?
Yeah, it's one of those that's probably a blow, but not a surprise. It's probably a blow that Gareth Southgate expected. I mean, Luke Shaw hasn't started a game for Man United since mid-February, so he's hardly coming into this summer on great form and in great condition. Obviously, he's had a setback now, will miss the FA Cup final, and that makes him a very significant concern, or a significant doubt, should I say, for the Euros. And to answer your question about other options, I think, to be honest, of all the positions in the squad, this is now the most worrying one. The lack of options is quite a huge concern now, I think, for Southgate. You mentioned Kieran Trippier, but I think he's played 2 games in the past 2 months and is just coming back. And obviously he's been playing right back all season, not left back. Levi Colwell's been injured, struggling with that too, and he's not a left back either, really. Ben Chilwell's, again, struggling with fitness issues and hasn't played particularly well this season. So you're starting to look around and think, where is Southgate going to turn for this position, especially in the starting lineup? And you look at players like Joe Gomez, maybe, who's had a good season for Liverpool and played left back quite a few times, or maybe even there's space for someone like Tyrick Mitchell at Crystal Palace, who's got a few caps for England but not really been in the picture recently. Yet he's playing very well for Oliver Glasner and looking good and in good form and in good fitness. So the options are pretty limited right now for Southgate, which will be a concern.
We're just a little short on time. Let's move on to The Guardian, talk about the big fight this weekend in Saudi Arabia. For all of the marbles in the heavyweight division, of course, it is Alexander Usyk against Tyson Fury. What did you make of, what we saw today? Fury not looking at Usyk, Jonathan. And, did you expect a little bit more than that? What's your read on, how this now sets up this fight this weekend?
To be honest, I did expect a little bit more. I expected fireworks, and I think partly that's because we are conditioned through the years of watching the fight game, which has so often turned into a charade, an attention-seeking charade. And you know what we're talking about: the pre-fight press conferences, these confected controversies, fighters trying to get their names in the headlines, saying the most provocative stuff. This pantomime, the pantomime that has basically become the pre-fight rigmarole. And I thought there was something incredibly powerful about the way that there were no fireworks today. Fury and Usyk, they talked about how much they respected each other. There were a few laughs, but basically both fighters understood I think the gravity and the seriousness and the stakes of what was on offer. And I think after so many years of being, I think fight fans being treated a little bit like fools, a little bit like reality TV show viewers, there is something very powerful about everyone knows how important this fight is. Everyone knows what the stakes are. It doesn't need to be hyped. It doesn't need to be sold. People are gonna tune in. People are gonna buy their pay-per-view packages. So so am I, right? I'm gonna tune in on Saturday night, and we all know what this means. It's been 25 years since we had a unified heavyweight champion, and I think there is nothing more powerful than when fighters and athletes and the people around the sport let the sport speak for itself. And that's, I think, what we're all looking forward to on Saturday night.
Sam, what is the sort of the best way for Usyk to kind of pick apart the holes of Tyson Fury? I mean, that performance against Francis Ngannou, I think is one that he wants to consign to history. Do you think that there are some learnings there that Usyk can really make the most of?
Yeah, just quickly before I get to that, I agree with Johnny's point, but I would say there were fireworks, obviously, earlier in the week when John Fury headbutted one of Usyk's team members. So there has been some off the beaten track issues this week too. So it's not been all like it was today. But yeah, I mean, I was reading Tony Bellew's view earlier, for example, and he was saying that Usyk's simply the better fighter. Yes, Fury's got the size, but Usyk's got the technique, the speed, the angles, the movement, and I think he is the better fighter. And if Fury can dominate physically, as we know he can, given the size difference, that will make a big difference. But still, for me, it's hard to look beyond Usyk.
Sadly, we've run out of time, but we will reflect the fact that, of course, Leeds United have made it to the Championship playoff final to face either Southampton or West Brom 0-0 in their semi-final first leg, with the second to come. But Jonathan and Sam, can I just say it's been really fun tonight. It's been really entertaining. Bad language aside, Jonathan, we'll discuss that. Yes, exactly. You should bow your head in shame. Absolutely right. But listen, real pleasure. Thank you so much, and we will speak to you again very, very soon indeed. If you miss any of the show, there is another chance to see Back Pages tonight at 1:30. The show also available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods, in all the usual places. Join us again Friday night. Our guest will be Heather Dewar from Daily Mail, Mark Ogden, senior writer from ESPN.